want proof. Joshi ne Kabir so wakat aur fast pare છે 20 મિનિટમાં સમજાને. You see, I want proof it works. The whole of Islam you've accepted. Now you want proof for that dua. But when the doctor gives you the pill, you ask him, I want proof. Can you show me the evidence? I don't get asked that question very often. I give you an antibiotic, you take it. You don't want to take it, I say, tataro rasto pakar. Okay? But for dua, for anything religious, we want proof. Wanting to understand something so that it strengthens your iman is different from wanting proof because you have no faith in it. Is the difference. Big difference. See, a doctor says, a doctor says, look, don't eat this. It will give you high cholesterol, diabetes. You are ready to believe this. Okay, we are not going to eat. Now, if our prophet says or our imam says, don't eat this because it will make your ruh and your nafs sick, we will look for loopholes. Yes? I don't know about Milton Keynes, but I'm talking about Canada. You see, I tell my patient, you're a diabetic, you should not eat this. Okay, doc, no problem. You've got high cholesterol, you should not eat this. Okay, doc. But when you say to them that, look, this food is haram, do not eat it because it will affect your nafs, your ruh, you look for loophole. Ek mujtahid છે એ રજા આપ્યો છે. મને લાગે છે આપણે એની તકલીફ કરે. You see, you're looking for loopholes. You are looking for loopholes rather than understanding the essence of what is being told to you. You look for loopholes. So one person came to me and said, it's very difficult. Because, my best friend is a Hindu. My best friend is a Hindu. And when I came to Canada, he really helped me in setting myself up. Now when I go to his house and he gives me food, how can I refuse? It's okay because you will hurt his feelings. They say, I will hurt his feelings if I refuse. Hurting his feelings, you want to sacrifice. But looking at the pleasure and obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that has no comparison with hurting of feelings. We have bargained the iman. You sold it. Sold it. You have sold the iman because you look for loopholes. And this haram food is a very big problem in Canada. Very big. Every corner you have baltis and what have you. Halal is very easy. But this is a disease in our community. One day our Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he was walking with his companions. He was walking with his companions. And a young boy came and he abused the Prophet. Galidi abused the Prophet. And when that young boy abused the Prophet said, with his sahabi were there, ashab were there, the Prophet said that this child is an illegitimate child. This child is an illegitimate child. So the companions got a little bit worried. They said, Ya Rasulullah, this person's father, nikah, you recited. You recited the nikah of this person's father. How can you say that this is an illegitimate child? And the Prophet said, let's go to his father. So they went to his father, and the Sahabis told the story to his father that, look, your son has abused the Prophet. So immediately the father took out his sword. And he said, I will kill this son of mine. How dare he abuse the Prophet? And the Prophet said, it is not the fault of your son. He is an illegitimate child. So the man said, okay, then I will kill his mother. Then I will kill his mother. The Prophet said, let's go to his mother. And we went to his mother. And the Prophet said that this boy has abused me because he is an illegitimate child. And he is illegitimate because when this woman was pregnant, she ate something that was haram. And the woman said yes to the Prophet. You are right. When I was pregnant and I was walking one day and I saw an apple in somebody's garden, I picked it up and I ate it because I was hungry. And the Prophet said, the effect of that ghasbi food that you've ate has so much effect that if this child now has the audacity to abuse the Prophet. The effect of haram food, my friends, it eats away the iman and the faith. Eats it away. It just disintegrates your iman. To the extent that you develop such a bad thing, so your iman is so devoid that you can actually abuse the Prophet. Hey, community about problems. We have a problem of our youth. It's a fashion in our community. It's a fashion. We have a problem with the youth. We have to do something for the youth. You have not self-reflected inside yourself. This is the effect of what we have done ourselves. Because haram food does not mean just having McDonald's burger or anything like that, or eating something from Hindus. Haram food means any food that is given to somebody that has not been acquired in an Islamic illegitimate way. And it includes, in Africa, Hussein Bhai, is magendo. I don't know if you know magendo. But rishwat. Rishwat is, in Urdu, we call it rishwat, bribery. Bribery. You do business, and you do rishwat and bribery and magendo and all of this because you want to acquire that wealth. And then you feed that to your children, and then you say, we have a problem with the youth. Eh? You have money which you have not taken khums from that money. That food is haram because you have stolen from none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're a thief that has stolen from Allah. And that food's affects your children. It affects your children. So we have a problem with the youth. We have not self-reflected, my friend. I'm telling you, when I did research, because I have to do a lot of research, I know, because I have been brought up in a Khoja community. So whatever I say, I know I will get challenged. And I have all the references. So I say it with confidence. If I don't have confidence, I don't say it from the podium. When I did research on Imam Hussein and the Karbala and everything, we don't recite this very often because when we recite Masayib, sometimes we don't recite the message that Imam was giving. On the day of Ashura, one of the last khutbahs of Imam alayhi salam. Just listen for a minute. This is the day of Ashura. Everybody has died. All his ashab have died. His family members have died. Imam is now gone to the battlefield. And he gives a last khutbah. One of his last khutbahs that he gives. And in that khutbah, he gives a beautiful khutbah. And the message is he reminds the people the army of Yazid, of who Hussein is. He reminds them. And then he says a statement that is astonishing. He says, I know why you people are doing all of this to the grandson of the Holy Prophet. I know what has made you fight and kill the family of the Holy Prophet. It is because you have haram food in your stomach. Of all the messages that Imam could have given in that last khutbah, he gives this message to us that look, if your income is not halal, it will affect the people. It will affect your children to such an extent that they will be ready to murder the grandson of the Prophet. The difference, my friends, between Hussein and Yazid is not that one was a drunkard, a gambler, a womanizer, and the other one was pious and feared Allah. That is not the difference. My friends, the difference is in ideology. The difference is in ideology. Because when Walid and Marwan asked Imam Hussein alayhi salam to do bayat, to swear allegiance on Yazid, Imam's reply was for mankind until the day of Qiyamah. For Imam said that he did not say that I will not do bayat of Yazid. Hussein will not do bayat of Yazid. Imam did not say that. Imam said that a person like me will never do bayat of a person like Yazid. He put the framework. The difference is in ideology. A person like me, if you are in the camp of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you will never submit to the vices that have been propagated by Yazid. That is the difference in ideology. And after refusing bayat, Imam came to his relatives. And he said to them, it is time. It is time for us to leave. It is time for us to leave Medina, and it is time for me now to sacrifice my life to save Islam. We will have to sacrifice ourselves totally, he said to his family, because this is the only way that we can protect Islam. Imam alayhi salam came to the grave of the Prophet. When he came to the grave of the Prophet, he said, oh my grandfather, Hussein is now leaving Medina. It is time for Hussein to leave Medina. And he said to his grandfather that, give me strength, for this Hussein does not want to falter in his mission of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. And the historians write that after that, Imam Hussein alayhi salam went to his mother's grave, Janab Fatima Zahra. And historians clearly write that Imam Hussein cried so much on his mother's grave. He cried so much that the cover of Janab Fatima started to shake, and a voice of Fatima came from the cover and said, Hussein, go forth, for your mother will be at every stage during your journey. After visiting the graves of the Prophet and his mother, Imam Hussein alayhi salam came to Hazrat Abbas, and he said to Hazrat Abbas, Abbas, I want you to prepare a list of those people who I am going to include in my fights, those people who will accompany me in this journey. Hazrat Abbas started to write this list, and in this list he included the name of Janab Fatima Sughra. When he included the name of Janab Fatima Sughra, Imam Hussein alayhi salam looked at the list and he said to Abbas, Abbas, I want you to take out this name of Janab Fatima Sughra. when Janab Fatima Sughra's name was taken out of that list. Fatima Sughra heard about it, and immediately Sughra went to Ali Akbar and said to Ali Akbar, my brother Akbar, I want you to intervene on my behalf. I want you to go to my father and influence him for him to change so that I could be included in this list. Akbar came to Imam Hussein and said to Imam Hussein, Baba, you know Sughra is so dear to me. I want you to take Sughra with us to this journey. Hazadaro, Imam Hussein looked at Akbar and he says, Akbar, Akbar, I cannot take Fatima to Sughra with me, for Fatima to Sughra is a splitting image of my mother Fatima. Hussein does not want the image of Fatima being paraded in the streets of Kufa, being paraded in the streets of Sham. Hazadaro, ye kafila tayyar hua. Ali Asgar एक मर्तबा सुगरा के साथ लिपट गया. सुगरा को जब ये पता चला कि असगर नहीं आने वाला, तो एक मर्तबा असगर को लेके जनाब सुगरा ने इमाम हुसैन से दरख्वास्त की कि बाबा जान, मैं तो नहीं आ रही, लेकिन मैं चाहती हूँ कि ये मेरा छोटा सा भाई वो मेरे साथ रहे, ताकि मैं उससे देख के मुझे तसल्ली हो जाए. अज़ादारो, इमाम हुसैन ने अपना सर झुका दिया. एक मर्तबा जब सब लोगों ने ये कोशिश की कि असगर को वापस ले ले, असगर सबसे मुंह फिरा रहा था. सुगरा से लिपट के असगर किसी के पास नहीं जा रहा था. अब ये मंजर जब इमाम हुसैन ने देखा, तो एक मर्तबा इमाम हुसैन आगे बढ़े, अली असगर के कान में कुछ कहा. मुअर्रिख नहीं लिखते कि इमाम हुसैन ने क्या कहा, लेकिन मेरा दिल कहता है कि शायद इमाम ने असगर से कहा हो, बेटे असगर, क्या हुरमला के तीर से डर गया? तेरे बगैर ये जंग फतह नहीं हो सकती. अज़ादारो, ये सुनना था. अली असगर मुकर के इमाम हुसैन के पास चले गए. ये काफिला तैयार हो रहा था. अज़ादारो, अब एक मर्तबा उम्मुल बनीन आगे बढ़ी. इमाम हुसैन के पास आके उम्मुल बनीन ने कहा, आका, मेरी एक छोटी सी मेरी एक छोटी सी दरख्वास्त है. इमाम हुसैन ने कहा, हाँ माँ, क्या दरख्वास्त है? कहा, आका, मैं चाहती हूँ कि मैं अब्बास के साथ अकेले में कुछ बातें कर सकूं. इमाम हुसैन ने इजाजत दी. अज़ादारो, अब उम्मुल बनीन अब्बास के पास आती है. अब्बास का हाथ पकड़ा. उम्मुल बनीन ने अब्बास से कहा, अब्बास, मेरे साथ चलो. अब्बास उम्मुल बनीन का हाथ पकड़ के अब उम्मुल बनीन अब्बास को रसूल की कब्र पे ले गई. जब रसूल की कब्र पे अब्बास और उम्मुल बनीन आई है, तो एक मर्तबा उम्मुल बनीन ने कहा, अब्बास, अपना एक हाथ कब्र रसूल पे रखो. अब्बास ने अपना एक हाथ कब्र रसूल पे रख दिया. अज़ादारो, अब उम्मुल बनीन ने कहा, अब्बास, अपना दूसरा हाथ मेरे सर पे रखो. अब्बास ने दूसरा हाथ माँ के सर पे रखा. अब उम्मुल बनीन ने कहा, अब्बास, अब ये कसम खाओ कि ये हाथ तब तक सलामत रहेंगे जब तक ज़ैनब के सर पे चादर सलामत रहेगी. अब्बास, मैं नहीं सुनना चाहती कि ज़ैनब के सर पे चादर नहीं हो और तुम्हारे हाथ सलामत. इन्ना लिल्लाहि व इन्ना इलैहि राजिऊन. أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين شفيع المذنبين وخاتم النبيين نبينا وشفينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فإليك يا رب نسبت وجهي وإليك يا رب مددت يدي. فبعزتك استجب لدعائي وبلغني منايا ولا تقطع من فضلك رجاي واكفي شر الجن والإنس من أعداي. يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء. يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى. ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاؤه البقاء. يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النقام يا نور المستوحشين في الظلم يا عالما لا يعلم. صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بي ما أنت أهل. وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقان الحميد وهو أصدق الصادقين وقوله الحق. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والآسر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صلوات الله. Elders of the community, my brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Asr, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Wal Asr, I swear by the passage of time through the ages. Innal insana lafi khusr. Surely and most surely mankind is at a loss. The whole of the human beings, is at a loss. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat. Except for those people who have iman, who have faith, who have belief. And those people who perform good deeds. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And those people who enjoin each other towards the truth, and those people who enjoin each other towards forbearance or patience. So in this last couple of nights, we have talked about Iman. And we are going through this journey of Iman. And we want to do the tafsir of this particular surah in these 12 days. We want to have an opportunity to self-reflect and see if we can evaluate our own Iman. And inshallah wa ta'ala, make efforts to transform ourselves in these 12 nights or 10 nights so that we are true to the message of Imam Hussein salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. So this is the journey, inshallah, that we are going to pass through. Now, I have to tell you one thing before I start the majlis today. Well, actually, two things before I start the majlis today. I really appreciate your feedback. Alhamdulillah, there were lots of people who gave me the feedback yesterday. I really appreciate that. And I was very touched by some of the feedback that I gave, some of the comments that came to me. One interesting person came to me and he said, "Ke tu bana bau losses." So in Swahili, I know that, I was told, que una ngombeza. So I want to let you know that I'm not gombezaing anybody, really. It is a message for me, and it is just as much for me as it is for everybody else. It is just for us to self-reflect, that's all. I told you in my first majlis that I'm not an alim, and I don't pretend to be an alim. You have, alhamdulillah, been blessed with lots of ulama in this community and in the whole of United Kingdom. But I'm here just for you to self-reflect. So today, I am not going to gombeza anybody. Okay, so today, and so it's going to be a different type of a majlis today. But I have prepared myself to convey a message. And this message is on behalf of our Imam. So I will not leave here until I have conveyed that message. You may or may not want to re-invite me, that's a separate issue. But I have to convey my message. And in order to convey my message, the next 2 majlises, or 3 majlises even, are absolutely foundational for what I want to talk about from the majlises after that, the next 4 to 5 majlises that will remain. These next 2 majlises are absolutely foundational. So today's majlis, you may find, some people may find it difficult to grasp. Some people may think it is basic. But it is very important in order for me to connect it with the theme that I have for these 12 days, which is the theme of Iman and performing good deeds. You see, everybody professes to be a Mormon in this community. Yes? I hope everybody thinks that they are a Mormon. If you are not, then you are in the wrong place right now. But everybody professes that we are a Mu'min. We believe in the 5 usul, and we are a Mu'min. But there are certain experiences that we go through in life, as we develop in life, where we start to doubt what we believe in. Please stay with me today, because the discussion is going to be at a little bit philosophical level. But it is important. So as we journey through the life, and we believe that we are a mu'min, we have a belief in it. But there are certain experiences that will come to you in your life where you will actually doubt what you believe in. A doubt will creep in. And Sheikh Nasiruddin Tusi, alayhi rahmah, he has written about this, and he says that every human being must pass through this stage of doubt. He calls it hayrani, not shak. Shak is different. This is a stage of doubt that every human being passes through. It is called hayrani. And it is a stage where you become an agnostic. You get agnosticism. And what is an agnostic? An agnostic is a person who likes to believe, but he feels that, and he feels or, he finds that there is no intelligent reason for that belief. He likes to believe. He likes to believe that there is a God. But he is not able to reconcile that belief. He does not find an intelligent reason for that particular belief. And this is the stage of doubt that Sheikh Nasiruddin Tusi talks about, which is hayrani. And we all pass through this stage. If you are a young person, you will pass through it. If you are an older person, then you have passed through it. But Sheikh Nasiruddin Tusi says that in order to reach the stage of yaqeen or certitude, you must pass through this stage of doubt or hayrani. Very important to understand this. So, in order for us, and it would be an absolute disaster if somebody is passing through this stage of doubt or hayrani, that we would not as a community nurture that person so that person would progress into the stage of certitude or yaqeen. That would be a disaster. So we must recognize it. And when some people come, some of the youth and others come and ask us these questions, then many times, in the old days, we were talking yesterday with Hussein Bhai, in the old days, you would just get a kibao, why are you asking a question like this? You don't believe? You see, but it is important that you nurture that person so that he understands that. In order to then go to the stage of yaqeen, having passed through this stage, or if we are in the stage of hayrani, we have to strengthen that person so that you can instill the right iman and the right faith in that person's heart so he can progress from this stage of hayrani. And the only way to go from this stage of hayrani into the stage of certitude and yaqeen is to understand the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tawheed is the most important concept that we must understand. If you understand Tawheed, you will realize that whatever you are doing, whatever you do in whatever stage of life that you do in, you are doing it only for one reason and one reason only, and that is for His pleasure and His pleasure alone. So you understand the concept of Tawheed is very important because that is the foundation. If we look at it, we have 5 usul, right? 5 usul that we have. We actually have only one usul. Don't misquote me and people will start to worry, that we are teaching the madrasa kids something and this guy is this. But if you look at it, the most important usul is that of Tawheed. Everything else after that depends on strengthening Tawheed. Adl is part of Tawheed. Nabuwat was so that they could explain Tawheed to the people, and so was Imamat. And the consequences of all of Tawheed is Qiyamah. So the most important concept is Tawheed. We have to understand Tawheed. So the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And inshallah, if Allah gives me life and strength, tomorrow, once we have gone through today's majlis, tomorrow I will touch on the concept, because the executive here had asked me to talk about it, on azadari. And I will touch on that concept as an understanding of Tawheed. That is the connection of azadari. It is connected to Tawheed, to the oneness of Allah, to the existence of Allah. So let's talk about the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the existence of God. There was a concept that was created, and this concept was called the concept of rationalism or realism. And this concept was a concept where they said that if there is something and I cannot see it, then how can I believe that it exists? The concept of rationalism is still present today, and realism. But if you look at it from the scientific point of view, science also talks about things that exist but that cannot be seen. You see, Albert Einstein, because these days, it is better that, instead of we say Qala Rasulullah, Qala this, people like to hear about Qala Einstein, because it's more explaining, better for them. So Albert Einstein had this theory of relativity, right? Theory of relativity. So there is a book, because I almost failed physics. I didn't do very well in physics. So there is a book that is called Theory of Relativity for Laymen. or theory of relativity for dummies. So if you read that book, Albert Einstein says that there is a speed or a velocity of light at 186,000 miles per second, where if anything travels at that speed of light, 186,000 miles per second, it will exist, but you will not be able to see. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. Anything that travels at this speed of light, it will cease to appear, but it will exist. So light is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you believe that something traveling at the speed of light can exist but will not be able to be seen, then why are you doubting that thing that has created light in the first place? لا تدركه الأبصار وهو يدرك الأبصار. You cannot see him. You cannot have a conversation with him. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لا تدرك الأبصار وهو يدرك الأبصار. You see, the design and orderliness in this universe must originate from a source of knowledge and a source of power. You cannot say that this orderliness actually can be originated just from chance. You know, if you are, a physician like myself, alhamdulillah, there are physicians in this community, there are people who are actually studying medicine. You will see that the human body is in a state of homeostasis, right? It's in a state of balance. Things are in a state of balance at all times in the human being. So to imagine this beautiful creation, which is in a constant state of balance, whether you're looking at the hormonal system, whether you're looking at the reproductive system, the cardiovascular system, it's all in a state of balance. That balance and orderliness cannot happen by chance. There has to be a creator who created it. If you have a computer in front of you, because people use computer all the time, this computer, which is a complex machinery, you cannot imagine this computer just being there by chance. There has to have been a person who made that computer, who created it, because it is so intricate, there is so many things in it that give you information, that you can access information, that something like that cannot be seen. It's not intelligent to think that, well, this can just happen by a big bang and it's a chance. There was an old lady once in the old ages. She was weaving a hand mill. There was a hand mill. So I have to say this majlis so that the children as well as the adults can be with me, because I know it's a difficult one. She was weaving a handle, for a hand mill. She was creating that cloth and weaving the hand mill. And a person came to her and said, how do you know that there is God? How do you know that there is existence of God? And as she was weaving this hand mill, she stopped. And she said to this person, this is how I understand that God exists. And the man said, what do you mean? She said, did you see that when I was weaving and I was turning this wheel, and when I stopped turning it, it stopped on its own? Are you telling me that the whole universe and the stars and the orbits, that they are in so intricate balance that there would not be a supreme power who is actually coordinating and handling all of it? This is how I believe that God exists. You see, this is the way many people understand the existence of God. Everybody understands it in different ways. So, if you look at the world, if you look at what we live in, if you try and sort of understand it, you know that this whole world is actually existed in a state of there is a cause and an effect. Right? You cannot have an effect without a cause. Are you getting lost? Are you with me? Muhammad Barabat. Salawat Billah Muhammad Barabat. So, there is a cause and an effect. Now, there are two kinds of evidences or proofs in mathematics. Right? First is, you observe a cause, or you see a cause as a proof, and you accept its effect. And that is basically evidence to one of your five senses. So if you see fire, and the fire is burning wood, you know that the burning of the wood is caused by the fire, because you see the fire. Yes? If you eat something, or you taste something, or you see something, or you hear something, that is a cause that you have sensed, you have perceived with your own senses. Barabar? So that's a direct proof. The other type of proof in mathematics is you observe the effect as a proof that there must have been a cause that gave rise to that effect. So, let me give you an example. This light is on. The light is on. The cause of this light is electricity. But you don't see the electricity, you see the effect. By seeing that this light is on, you know that there is a cause, which is electricity, even though you don't see it. You have to agree that there is a cause. If I take this tasbih and I put it down, it's going to fall onto the ground. Why? Because you know that there is a gravitational force that is going to drag this tasbih down onto the floor. You don't see it, but the fact that this falls down, the effect of it, you know that there is something that is pulling it down. In the time of Aimma alayhi salam, when they were explaining to the people of their age, they would say that if you went to a desert and you saw footprints of a camel in a desert, then you would have deduced that there was a camel that gave rise to the footprint, although you would not see the camel. Or Imam said that if you saw the dung of a donkey, then you knew that there was a donkey that gave rise to the dung, although you do not see the donkey. So the effect tells you, by looking at the effect, by seeing the effect, that tells you that there must have been a cause that gave rise to that effect. So my friends, understand the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through nothing else but His creation. Because His creation is the proof that He exists. If you look at the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is the proof that He exists. You don't have to see the cause to understand that He exists. Because His creation, His effect, shows you that He exists. There cannot come anything into existence without an effect and without a cause that gave rise to that effect. You see, I am the effect. My parents are the cause. They are the effect. Their parents are the cause. They are the effect. Their parents are the cause. Now, if you go back and back and back, you will come to a stage where there is a prime effect. That was a prime effect that came into existence because of a prime cause. A prime cause that gave rise to that prime effect. That prime cause or prime mover is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. See, our seventh Imam, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, somebody came to him and asked him about creation. And Imam alayhi salam said, look, there are only three possibilities. Imam said there are only three possibilities. The first possibility is that we created ourselves. That's the first possibility. We created ourselves. Second possibility is that we were created automatically. Big Bang. Automatically. And the third possibility is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. There is no other possibility. That's what Imam said. So if you take the first possibility that we created ourselves, Imam says that this presupposes your existence before your creation. If you say we created ourselves, then it assumes that you existed to be able to create yourself. And that is not possible. Second possibility, Imam says, is that you think that things were created automatically or by Big Bang. And he says that this assumes that there was something that was created from nothing, from a void, which is not possible. From Adam, there was nothing. How can you have something created out of a void, out of nothing? It is not possible. So the only reason that exists is the third possibility, and that is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. So you can't say that it was created from nothing. Even the Big Bang theory that the evolutionists tell us about talks about certain gases that have been in existence, that something happened and there was a Big Bang and something was created. So it already presupposes an existence. Out of a void or out of nothing, you cannot create anything. And that is why creation is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our seventh Imam alayhi salam. Now, if you think about this, because our existence and our creation comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is always aware and knowledgeable of the actions of His creations. It's a very important point. If He is the person who created us and our existence depends on His creation, His creating us, that means that He is knowledgeable of all our actions, and whatever we do, He is knowledgeable of it. Now, if you have Iman in such an Allah that is knowledgeable of all your actions, the day-to-day actions that you do, then how can you fall prey to any sins? You cannot fall. If you believe in His existence and you believe that He is the one who created us, then you must understand that He is knowledgeable and aware of your actions. And if He's knowledgeable and aware of each and every action of yours, how can you fall prey to sin? Because there is nowhere and way that you can perform a sin that He would not be knowledgeable of. Because He's created you. So my friends, look for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His creations. For His creations are a proof of His existence. Everything we do, all our actions that we perform, all of the things that we carry out can only have one purpose and one purpose alone, and that is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if you believe in His existence and you believe that He is the person who has created us, then whatever you do has to be only for His pleasure. In Usul Kafi, Muhammad ibn Abdullah Khurasani, a companion of our eighth Imam, Imam Raza salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, he writes that a group of men were sitting with Imam alayhi salam when one of the men who did not believe in God, he denied the existence of God. He came and he sat down. And Imam alayhi salam knew that he does not believe in the existence of Allah. So Imam said to him that if as you say, that there is no God, that there is no prophet, that there is no Qiyamah, there is no Quran, if, as you say, if that were true, and it is not, Imam says, but he said that if it were true, then just tell me one thing, that the prayers that we do, the zakah that we pray, the iman that we have in our heart, is that to our detriment? If you believe that God does not exist, just because we perform good deeds and we pray and we have iman, is that going to harm us? It is not going to harm us. Then Imam says that if we are right, as we maintain that there is a God, that there is religion, and there are rules, and God exists, and it is important that you have iman, then is it not going to be a misfortune for you that you don't believe? It's a question. So this man says to Imam Raza alayhi salam, tell me, what is God? What is God like? What is he like? And where is he? This man said to Imam alayhi salam. And Imam alayhi salam says, your question is incorrect. God is not such as to be in a place. You cannot confine him, Imam says. And then he says, you cannot confine him. He's not somebody that needs to be in a place, because he's the one who created space. So he's not confined by it. And then Imam says, he is not somebody that has a quality, because he is the person who created qualities. They are from him. So this man then said, tell me, what evidence is there for the proof of the existence of God? And Imam alayhi salam had a beautiful answer. He says, when I reflect on my own self, and I see that there is so many things in my own body that are not within my own control, but they are working. When I see the stars and the orbits, and I see that they are not in anybody's control, that tells me that there must be a creator who is controlling it. And then this man says, tell me, from what time did God exist? From when did God exist? When did it start? From what time did God exist? And Imam said to him, you tell me when God has not existed, and I will tell you when he has existed. You see, on the day of Arafat, we recite dua of Imam Hussein salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. You see, it's a beautiful dua, dua Arafat. A lot of us don't recite it because it is a long dua. We don't like reciting long duas. Better to recite short duas. And if you can fast track the dua a little bit faster, is even better. That should have been taught about yesterday when I talked about rituals. But I am not going to Gombeza again on that side. But, you see, dua Arafat, I ask you honestly, my friends, sometimes these duas, if you don't recite the Arabic, don't recite it. Sometimes look at the translation of it. Because the messages of the duas are so important. In dua Arafat, Imam Hussein alayhi salam says to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how can I even attempt to prove your existence? Imam says, how can I even attempt to prove your existence? For there never was a time when you did not exist. Allahu Akbar. See the depth of this particular statement of Imam. You see, I am 20 years old. No, I'm not 20 years old, but let us assume I am 20 years old, because sometimes I like to assume I am 20 years old. But you see, if you say I am 20 years old, right? Then 21 years ago, I did not exist. 21 years ago, I did not exist. So it is easy for you to prove that I exist now, because there was a time when I did not exist. So now you can prove that I existed. But if you take Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where there was never a time where he did not exist, how can you prove his existence? Because there must have been a time that something did not exist for you to prove that he exists. But there was never a time when Allah did not exist. So you cannot prove his non-existence. Even the atheists, when they talk about that they don't believe in God, when the atheists talk about the fact that they do not believe in God, they have no proof for the fact that he does not exist. They will not be able to prove to you that he does not exist. What they will say is that we just cannot believe that he exists. Doesn't make sense. There is no proof for it. Because you cannot prove something that has already existed, that it does not exist or it does exist. Salawat Palla Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let me come down a little bit, maybe too heavy today. So, let's talk about some of the things that the children may be able to understand. Let's talk about Bahlul. We talked about Mr. Bahlul yesterday. Bahlul Dana, one day he was walking and he saw that there was Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who was one of the Imams of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He was talking to a person and he said that there are three things that Imam Ja'far Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi has said that I cannot understand or reason with. First, he said that Imam says that Shaitan, Iblis, is made of fire. So he said, I cannot understand if Shaitan is made of fire and he is going to go to Jahannam, how will fire burn fire? I do not understand that. Second thing, he says that if I cannot see something, how can I accept that it exists? Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And the third thing he said, he talked about predestination. He said, whatever we do is predestined from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't do it, Allah has made us do it. This is the Ash'ari school of thought. Predestination, that whatever we do is not in our control. Allah makes us do it. And Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam says that no, that is not right. We have our free will. I do not understand these three things. He was talking to somebody. Bahlul was walking. So when Bahlul heard this, he took some mud, like a brick, hard mud from the ground, and he just threw it at Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And it hit him on the head, and he started to bleed. So Ahmad ibn Hanbal told his friends, he said, go get this guy, Bahlul. Because everybody thought Bahlul was mad, right? So Bahlul was brought to Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And Bahlul said, yes, what's the problem? So Ahmad ibn Hanbal said, brother, I am having a conversation here, and you are throwing this thing on my head, And look, it's really hurting me. And Bahlul said, yes, what? It is hurting you? Show me the pain. Because I don't believe in anything that exists if I cannot see it. Because you said that. Second thing that, Bahlul said to Ahmad ibn Hanbal, well, first of all, he said, why did you come and catch me with your friends? Why did you come and catch me? He said, I didn't throw this thing at you. Allah made me do it. Because it is predestined. Allah has predestined it, so Allah made me do it. And then the third thing, he said that you are made of clay. Because in the Quran, Allah says you are made of clay, dust. And he said, I threw clay at you. So can you tell me how can clay give pain to clay? And then Bahlul said, look, just in the way that I have explained to you, you have to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists. That shaitan will burn in Jahannam. And that whatever you do is of your free will. It is not something that is predestined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And on this predestination, the same thing happened. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he came one day to see Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. He came to see Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, and as he came to see him, he was waiting outside, and he saw that there is a small child. And this small child was doing something with a goat. So he went to the small child and he said, what are you doing? And the small child was none other than our seventh Imam, Imam Musa Kazim salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. And the small child said, I am teaching this goat to do sajda. So Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal thought that this is an interesting person. Let me talk to him. So he said, first before I'd like to talk to you, but I need to use the washroom. Where can I go and relieve myself? So Imam gave him the masala. He said, you have to find a place where the wind is not blowing in a certain direction, where the water is not somewhere where it is underneath a tree that is going to bear fruits. And all the masails of where you would have to relieve yourself, he gave him. After that, I think Ahmad ibn Hanbal even forgot that he had to reveal himself. So Ahmad ibn Hanbal says to him, because this thing was really nagging him about this predestination. So Ahmad ibn Hanbal said to Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam, he said, tell me about predestination. Tell me about it. What is your opinion? And Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam said, look, there is only three possibilities. He said, either the possibility is that, as you say, that everything is predestined. Allah makes us do it. It is not of our own free will. Or the other possibility is that it is of our own free will. We as human beings are free to carry out our actions and we will be accountable for them. And the third possibility, he said, that it's a partnership. 50-50. Half Allah makes us do it, and half we do it ourselves. So Imam alayhi salam said to Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he said, look, if you consider the first possibility where you say that it is predestined that Allah makes us do it, then why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create Jahannam? If He makes us do it, then He has no right to punish us. If you say it's a 50-50 partnership, then He should also be punished for those things that are not good. If there is something that we do that is not good and it is a partnership, then the partner must also suffer, not only in the benefits. So the only possibility is that we do it of our own free will. This is the explanation of Imam alayhi salam. And I'm telling you that the history of Karbala and onwards, the Umayyad, the Umayyad kingdom, the Abbasid kingdom, was based on this whole concept of predestination. Up to today, it is alive. The reason that people would respect Yazid as a Khalifa was they had thought that this is a predestined thing. Allah wants this. No matter how bad it is from Allah, so it must be good. This was a political movement, and this is what the Caliphate of Umayyad was trying to propose, and it enhanced and it encouraged this thinking of predestination because it allowed them to rule and do zulm on people through this whole concept of predestination. Because this concept of predestination came after the death of the Prophet. Sometimes you have to understand, because people think if Yazid was so bad, why did the people not rise? Why did it take Imam Hussein to sacrifice his family? Because this thinking of predestination was being ingrained in those people at that time. They all thought this was Allah predestined it. But the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, from day one, if you look at all his khutbah, this is my challenge to you, challenge. Look at all his khutbah of Imam alayhi salam. You will not find a khutbah of Imam where he does not talk about Tawheed. Not a khutbah of Imam where he does not talk about Tawheed, about the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and about the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because that is the ultimate goal, and that is the reason for his sacrifice. And the first shaheed that was sacrificed in Karbala, in this event of Karbala, the very first shaheed was none other than Hazrat Muslim alayhi salam. He is the first shaheed. Muslim is alone in Kufa. And Muslim has come to Kufa as an ambassador of Imam alayhi salam, for there was supposed to be support for Imam in Kufa. And with the devious things that Ibn Ziyad did through Yazid, the Kufians, like chameleons, changed their colors. And out of 18,000 supporters of Imam, Muslim was left with a time where he was alone. There was nobody to support Muslim. He was being targeted and hunted by the army of Ibn Ziyad. And their time came when the army of Ibn Ziyad was after Muslim, and Muslim was running from one street and another alley, one street to another alley, trying to get away from the army of Ibn Ziyad. And there came a time when Muslim alayhi salam came outside a house, and he sat outside a house. He was dying. An old lady came out of that house, and he saw that this man is sitting down. And this lady came and said to Janab Muslim alayhi salam, Sheikh, what is it that I can do for you? So Muslim said that I would like some water, just a small amount of water. I've been running around all day and I am thirsty, I want some water. This woman came out and gave Muslim some water and said to Janab Muslim alayhi salam, who are you, O Sheikh? And Hazrat Muslim alayhi salam said that I am Muslim ibn Aqil. And this woman who was a muhib of Ahlul Bayt, she started to cry and said to Muslim, Sheikh, do you know that there are people who are after your blood? And Hazrat Muslim alayhi salam just bowed his head and he said, I don't worry about myself. The only thing that I am worried about is that my Aqa Hussein on my letter is on his way to Kufa. I just worry about my Mawla Hussein. Hazadaru, This particular lady said to Muslim, come into my house and I will give you refuge. Muslim went into this old lady's house, and at night, this old lady's son, whose name was Bilal, he came to the house. When he realized that Muslim was hiding in the house, he went immediately to Ibn Ziyad. And he said to Ibn Ziyad that I have found Muslim and I want the reward for finding Muslim. Azadaro, within minutes, the army of Ibn Ziyad came to the house of this person and they arrested Janab Muslim alayhi salam. Muslim was brought to the courtroom of Ibn Ziyad, and after coming to the courtroom of Ibn Ziyad ordered his army. He said, take Muslim to the rooftop of this palace, and from the rooftop I want you to gather the people of Kufa so that they are able to see it. And from the rooftop, Azadaro, the head of Muslim was beheaded on the rooftop. And then after beheading Muslim from the rooftop of Ibn Ziyad's palace, Ibn Ziyad said, now I want you to take the head of Muslim and I want you to hang the head of Muslim at the gate that is the entrance to Kufa, so that everybody who comes into Kufa understands that this is the rule of Ibn Ziyad and this is what we will do to the supporters of Hussein. And then Ibn Ziyad said, I want you to take the body of Muslim and I want you to tie it with a rope and I want you to drag the body of Muslim through the streets of Kufa. Azadaro, Muslim's body was dragged, beheaded through the alleyways and the streets of Kufa. In the meantime, a messenger came towards Imam Hussein. As Imam Hussein was coming to Kufa, a messenger came to Imam Hussein, and the messenger gave the message to Imam that, Ya Imam, Muslim ibn Aqil has been murdered by Ibn Ziyad. When Imam Hussein heard that Muslim had been killed, he immediately sat down and he started to cry. He said, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Immediately he called the daughter of Muslim, whose name was Atika, and Atika came to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein took Atika and put Atika on his lap, and then Imam Hussein alayhi salam showed affection towards Atika. When Ruqayya, who was the wife of Muslim, saw that Imam Hussein alayhi salam was showing affection towards Atika, immediately Ruqayya realized that Muslim had been killed. Ruqayya asked Imam Hussein alayhi salam, said, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Yes, my brother Muslim has been killed. Janab Sakina alayhi salam came forward, and an interesting question she asked to Imam. She said, Baba, is this how we treat orphans in Islam? Is this the way how we treat orphans in Islam? Imam alayhi salam said to Sakina, this is the way we treat orphans in Islam. Sakina came to Ataka. She hugged Ataka and said to Ataka, do not worry. Consider my father as your father. We will take care of you, Ataka. Azadaro, little did Sakina know that after Sham-e-Ghariba, when she became an orphan, Shimr did not come to her and show any affection towards Sakina. Shimr came and Shimr slapped Sakina on her face. He ripped out the earrings from her ears. Sakina realized that the way orphans are treated in Islam is not the same as they are treated by the army of Yazid. Azadaro, जब ये लूटा हुआ काफिला करबला के बाद कूफे की जानिब गया है, जब करबला के बाद कूफे की जानिब ये लूटा हुआ काफिला गया है, तो रुकैया ने एक सर को کوفے کے دروازے پہ دیکھا. عزادارو جگر پہ ہاتھ رکھنا. رقیہ نے کوفے کے دروازے پہ ایک سر کو دیکھا. اب رقیہ نے جب یہ سر کو دیکھا تو رقیہ رونے لگی. مسلم کے سر نے رقیہ نے مسلم کے سر کو دیکھا, مسلم نے رقیہ کو دیکھا, رقیہ نے مسلم کو دیکھا. ایک مرتبہ رقیہ تڑپ کے کہتی ہے مسلم میں آپ کو یہ نہیں پوچھنے والی کہ آپ کے اوپر پتھر کیسے مارے گئے, میں آپ کو یہ پوچھنے نہیں والی کہ آپ کا سر جسم سے کیسے ذبح کیا گیا, اور میں آپ کو یہ بھی نہیں پوچھنے والی کہ آپ کے جسم کو, آپ کی لاش کو کوفے کی گلیوں میں کیسے گھسیٹ کے کھینچا گیا. مسلم تو مجھے یہ نہ پوچھنا کہ کربلا میں ہمارے سب کیسے مارے گئے. مسلم مجھے یہ مت پوچھنا کہ 3 دن کی بھوک اور پیاس ہم نے کیسے برداشت کی. مسلم ہمیں یہ نہیں پوچھنا کہ لعینوں نے ہمارے پہ کیسے ظلم کیے. مسلم یہ سوال بھی مت کرنا کہ ہمارے خیمے کیسے جلائے گئے, ارے ہمارے سر سے چادریں کیسے چھینی گئی, ہمارے ہاتھ پسے گردن کیسے باندھے گئے. لیکن مسلم میں ایک سوال کرنا چاہتی ہوں, آخر ماں ہوں, ایک سوال کرنا چاہتی ہوں کہ میرے وہ 2 ننھے لال جو تمہارے ساتھ آئے تھے, وہ 2 ننھے لال کہاں ہیں؟ عزادارو مورخ لکھتے ہیں ایک مرتبہ مسلم کے سر پہ حرکت ہوئی. مسلم نے کہا رقیہ تمہارے 2 بچے ابن زیاد کے قید خانے. سیارم الذین ظلموا انقلبوا انا للہ و انا الیہ راجعون. الحمد للہ رب العالمین والصلاة والسلام على اشرف الانبیاء والمرسلین شفیع المذنبین وخاتم النبیین نبینا وشفینا وحبیب قلوبنا وطبیب نفوسنا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فإليك يا رب نسبت وجهي وإليك يا رب مددت يدي. فبعزتك استجب لدعائي وبلغني منايا ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكف شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي. يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء. يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غناء ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاؤه البقاء. يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النقام يا نور المستوحشين في الظلم يا عالما لا يعلم. صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بما أنت أهله. وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد وهو أصدق الصادقين وقوله الحق. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صلوات الله. elders of the community, my brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Asr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Wal Asr. I swear by the passage of time through the ages. Innal insana lafi khusr. That most surely, all of mankind is at a loss. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat. Except for those people who have iman or who have faith and belief. And those people who perform good deeds. وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاسَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And those people who enjoin each other towards the truth, and those people who enjoin each other towards forbearance or patience. This journey we are going to go through, it is a journey of reflection, self-reflection of our iman, and whether we are truly of those people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alludes to in the surah, that if you have the iman and you perform the good deeds, that you will be successful. Or are we those in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a direct point on where He says you will be at a loss? That is the question. And that is the message of Imam Hussein salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. That he is asking us to self-reflect. He is asking for a transformation to occur in yourself during these 10 days of Muharram. It would be indeed a sad part if you were to just come here for 10 days and that there would be no transformation in your heart. Yesterday we talked about the existence of God, the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for me, it was probably the most difficult majlis that I will recite in these 10 days. And I'm sure for you it was probably the most difficult majlis as well, because it was more at a philosophical level. But it is very important that we understand, mark my words, I'm choosing my words very carefully. It is very important that we understand the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because, you see, it is not just enough to know that He exists. Because some people, I'm sure, said to themselves, hey, what is he talking about the existence? We know He exists. We know Allah exists. Well, why are we sitting here? So why is he talking to us about the existence of Allah? Knowing the existence of Allah and understanding and having ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is two different things. It's two different things. It is not enough only also to understand and to have ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next stage after that is to try and get as close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as possible. And that is taqwa. And I can prove this point to you, that there is a difference between knowing the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having the ma'rifat or the understanding of the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is a big difference. And it has been alluded to in the Holy Quran. And we are going to talk about today a little bit Shaitan, Mr. Iblis. You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran, He orders all the angels, إِذَا صَوَّيْتُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي. He says, when I blow the soul into Adam, then He says to the angels, all the angels, فَسَجَدُوا. I want you to prostrate to Adam. all the angels prostrate to Adam, except for Mr. Iblis. Shaitan refuses to prostrate to Adam. Why? He says, خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. I am made of fire, and he is made of clay and dust. I am more superior to him. So why should I prostrate to him? This is the argument of Shaitan. Now, after that, he says to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you say to me, Shaitan is talking to Allah, you can tell me to bow down and prostrate to you as much as you want. And he says to Allah that I will do so many sajdas of you that you will not need anybody else to do your sajda. But I will not prostrate to others, because I am more superior to him. خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَلَا خَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. Shaitan, his status was quite a high status. He was amongst the great, he sat amongst the great angels. He was not an ordinary person there. He sat amongst the great angels. His level was very high, not a small person here. His ibadat, the angels used to give examples of ibadat of Shaitan. And he says that you tell me, Ya Allah, I will prostrate to you. I have no problem in prostrating to you. But to Adam, I am not going to do sajda. By saying that I will prostrate to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as many times as you want, I will do your sajda, Shaitan is telling you that he knows the existence of Allah. If he did not know the existence of Allah, he would not say to Allah that I will prostrate to you as much as you want. He knows the existence of Allah, but because he is not prostrating or he is not obeying the order of Allah, he has no ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't understand the existence of Allah. He knows, but he does not understand. So Iman is useless if you just know about it, because there is no difference in that Iman and the Iman of Shaitan. Iman comes that after you have that faith, you have to understand there is obedience after that. If Allah says prostrate to Adam, there is no argument you prostrate, because that is your test of Iman. Otherwise, there is no difference between that Iman and the Iman of Shaitan, if it is just something that you think that, no, I know better. And this happens, this happens. Because if a masala comes to you, and you don't understand it, then we have this attitude of, I am holier than thou. Why we have to I can sit in my house and I can meditate. I can connect with my Lord. I don't have to do this up, down, namaz 3 times a day. And then before that, wuzu. First, you want me to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, or 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock. London, heating is not very good. It's very cold. Then you want me to do wuzu. And this masa in the head and masa in the leg. I can sit and I can meditate. You are saying what Shaitan is saying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I will obey and worship you the way I want to worship you, but I will not worship you the way you want me to worship. That's the difference. Allah wants you to pray 5 times a day because He wants to see the obedience in you, because that is the test of Iman. So the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is something that we have to understand. And once we understand it, we have to strive to get close to Him, to get near to Him, and to develop taqwa. That is the goal, my friends. That is the goal. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And one of the ways to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the ways to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I will repeat because I want you to understand what I'm saying. One of the ways to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is through azadari of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The question most asked by the youth these days: if azadari was not going to get us close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it is useless. Because we as Shias are not here to do ceremonial lamentations. Our goal is taqwa and closeness to Allah. And azadari, my friends, gets us close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Surah Hajj, ayat number 32. Surah Hajj, ayat number 32. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ذَلِكَ وَمَنْ يُعَزِّمْ مِنْ شَعَائِرِ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Allah in the Quran has spoken about certain signs that lead to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ذَلِكَ وَمَنْ يُعَزِّمْ مِنْ شَعَائِرِ اللَّهِ. Certain signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that lead you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in so doing, whoever emphasizes these signs, whoever respects these signs, whoever reveres these signs, whoever recognizes these signs, he gives purpose of piety. He has proof of piety. And that piety that is not superficial or superfluous, that piety that is from the heart, taqwa al-qulub, not superficial. Min sha'airillah. Certain signs of Allah that will give you piety that is entrenched in the heart. So entrenched that it cannot be shaken. Whatever refers you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and whatever reminds you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is min sha'airillah, one of the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see, you go to Hajj. Those who have gone, and inshallah wa ta'ala, those who have not gone, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give tawfiq that they go. And those who have gone, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them tawfiq that they go every year. When you go to Hajj, one of the things that you have to do, which is obligatory in Hajj, is you have to slaughter an animal. Muhammad, is that right? Muhammad has gone Hajj many times. MashaAllah. Is that right? Yes. You have to go to Hajj. You have to slaughter an animal. When you go, before you slaughter the animal, you look at the animal. You feel the animal. Is this the right animal? And a kan barabar se, and a pag barabar se. You see, you have to check the animal is right. And then you do a negotiation with the person who's selling the animal. Nowadays, I don't know, maybe they have these cards and things. I don't know what is happening nowadays. But in the old days, when I used to go there, you would negotiate. That guy would say, 2,000, riyals, and you'd say, no, 1,500 or 1,200, and, you would come to a negotiation. But once you buy that animal, and you have made your niyat that this is my animal, that I am going to slaughter, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that that animal now has become superior. It is not the same as any other animal that you slaughter, whether it is for aqiqah or for sadaqah or just to make pilau at home. It is not the same animal. Quran says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says that that animal has become more superior. Why? Because it is min sha'airillah. It is one of the signs of Allah. In fact, the Quran talks about that rope that is tied around the neck of the animal. Because once you buy the animal, in the old days, they used to have a rope. So you would take the animal and then you would lead the animal to wherever the Qurban Gah was. And there you would slaughter the animal yourself. Nowadays, Hajj has become a little bit luxurious now. A little bit. Everybody sits down in Hajj. After they come and hit shaitan, they all take their cell phones. And the guy is gone, he's doing 70 qurbanis on behalf of everybody. Yeah, take it, take it. Okay, you cut your hair now. It's become luxurious. Everybody who also, the people who can do qurbani, nowadays they don't do qurbani. And it is sad. Because if you are able to do the qurbani, you should do it. Because it is one of the obligatory acts of Hajj. Nevertheless, in the old days, we used to take this rope to guide the animal so that we could slaughter it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that even that rope that is around the neck of that animal, do not say anything bad even about that rope, because it is min sha'airillah. It is one of the signs of Allah. So what is the secret? What is the secret? Thousands of years ago, Hajra walks between Safa and Marwa 7 times, back and forth. That running of Hajra, who is the wife of a prophet, she is not ma'asum. She is the wife of a prophet. She runs 7 times between Safa and Marwa. Although she is not ma'asum, she is the wife of a prophet, but her running was to save the life of a ma'asum, which was her son. That act now has become an obligatory part of Hajj because of its intention. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says, Inna safa wal marwatan min sha'airillah. Safa and Marwa is from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what is the secret? My friends, whatever is referred to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whatever reminds you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and leads you to the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, min sha'airillah. And وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ, whomsoever respects and reveres it, whomsoever glorifies this sign, that person will have piety. Not superficial piety or superfluous. Taqwa al-qulub, from the heart. We cannot look down upon those things that lead us to the nearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the way of obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At that time, my friends, we do not see what is it made of. That animal is an inferior animal to a human being. Right? The animal is inferior. Any animal you take is inferior to the human being. But when it becomes the sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it becomes more superior. Because it is min sha'airullah. You see, salawat palla Muhammad wa alayhi. As I mentioned, Adam was created from clay, from dust. The angels are ordered to prostrate. Iblis refused, even though he was amongst the greatest of the angels. So if you see this, Adam is created, Allah has ordered people to prostrate. What is missing from shaitan is taqwa al-qulub. There is nothing in the heart. He says, I am better. خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. I am better because I am made of fire and he is made of clay or dust. So my friends, the difference is in the viewing of it and in your interpretation of it. Malaika bowed because it was an order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they knew, did they not know? Did they not know that Adam was made of clay? They knew that Adam was made of clay. So they prostrated. Why? Because it was an order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they knew that that prostration of theirs will be ascribed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Iblis was looking at what it was made of. When you ask me, what is this alam made of? What is this alam made of? This alam is made of wood and cloth. But you are looking at it the way Shaitan was looking at Adam. Don't look at what it is made of. Look at what is it going to ascribe to. It will take you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Imam Hussein and Sayyid al-Shuhada. And remember, if it refers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if it takes you, if it is ascribed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will always revere it and we will always respect it. This mimbar is what? Is made of some planks of wood. This mimbar is made of some planks of wood. But once the mimbar has been created and it is designated as mimbar-e-Rasul, then only people will not, with knowledge will sit on it. Monkeys will not sit on it. Min sha'airullah. The same thing, my friends, applies to Azadari. It is not a ceremonial lamentation. It has a purpose. Azadari has a purpose. Whether it is alam, whether it is lash, whether it is tabut, it has a purpose. And the purpose is that it should take you too close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Imam Hussein salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. And remember one thing, my friends. remember one thing, that وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ, the reverence and respect that you pay to alam and lash and tabut is not enough. The true ta'zim, the true reverence to alam and lash is that you follow the teachings and sayings of the Ahlul Bayt and Imam Hussain alayhi salam. That is the purpose of azadari. The meaning of reference or reverence is when you kiss that alam, you are committing to it and you are saying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I am kissing this alam so that I can get close to you, so that I can transform myself, that I can stop some of those things that are not Islamic. That is azadari. Just kissing it is not enough. True reverence is to follow in the footsteps of Imam. This is not a tradition, and nor is it a superstition. And don't say that. Those people who say azadari is a tradition or a superstition are ignorant. They have not understood the essence of azadari. Salawat Palla Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And this is not new. It is not new. There was a time when Hajar Aswad, the black stone of Khane-e-Kaaba, there was a time when people were saying that they wanted to remove that Hajar Aswad from Khane-e-Kaaba. Because they said that it looks like idol worshipping. It looks like idol worshipping. So someone said to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi that why don't we remove this Hajar Aswad? Because it looks like idol worshipping. People are worshipping a stone. And Imam Ali alayhi salam gave 3 reasons. He said, look, you cannot remove the Hajar Aswad. Number 1, because it is min sha'airillah. It is from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second thing he says, that this particular stone, this Hajar Aswad, will be a witness on the day of Qiyamah. Because when you go for Hajj, you start your tawaf at Hajar Aswad, and you look at the stone, or you respect that stone, and you say, Bismillahi Allahu Akbar, and you start your tawaf. You start your tawaf by looking at the stone. And Imam Ali alayhi salam says that when you do that, that stone registers your name. On the day of Qiyamah, it will be a witness that yes, this man had come to do Hajj. And then Imam Ali alayhi salam says something beautiful. The third reason he gives, he says that when you kiss that stone, because it is min sha'airillah, the status of that stone is such that it is able to distinguish the kiss of a munafiq and a believer. So my friends, when you kiss that alam of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, then that alam will be able to distinguish the kiss of the truth person and the liar, because it is min sha'airillah. Go and kiss the lash, go and kiss the alam, go and kiss the tabut with an intention that I will be transforming myself. Something I will do to transform myself. That is azadari. My plea really is to the formal and informal leadership of every community in the world, including this community. Do not get dazzled by people who tell you bad things about Azadari. This is an institution of Imam Hussein. If you remove this Azadari, you have removed min sha'airullah. You will have removed one of the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Invest your time in explaining the importance of Azadari to the youth if they don't understand. Because there are communities in our own worlds that are now thinking of taking the alams out. In our own community, yes. Salawat pale Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. एक मरतबा फिर सलवात पढ़ें. On the day of Ashura, this Mazlum Imam, he goes into the battlefield after Asr. Everybody has passed away. And he says, Hal min nasirin yansuruna. Is there anyone who will come to assist me? Anyone who will come to help me? Who is Imam calling? He knows everybody is dead. Everybody has been shaheed. He has been left alone. He is alone. He says this 4 times in the history books. 4 times he says, Hal min nasirin yansuruna, every corner. And the historian writes that Imam's nara of Hal min nasirin yansuruna was such that as if a muazzin was giving azan. He is calling people. Who is he calling? Imam, my friends, on that day of Ashura is calling the Muslim Ummah for the generations to come until the day of Qiyamah. He is asking us to assist him in his mission. So he is saying to us, transform yourselves so that whenever you see a Yazid in your time, stand up against the injustice. Stand up against the oppression. Fight it. Transform yourself. This is the message of Imam Hussein. We have not understood it. It is amazing if you see some of the khutbahs of Imam that he writes. Azai Hussein, the Azadari of Imam Hussein, which includes mourning, matam, crying, lamentation, the lash and alam. These emotions are supposed to evoke a repulsion against Yazidism. This is the message of the Azadari. I'm telling you, if you do not reform yourself individually or as a community, then this Azadari is futile. It becomes a hypocrisy. The problem that we have is that we have concentrated on the form of Azadari. We have not looked at the essence of it. Everybody has an opinion of Azadari and the form of Azadari. The Jangbaris do saf. The Pakistanis do matam ube behatet. The Iranians have plays. They actually have plays. If you go to Iran, they have plays, or they have small plays where they have, somebody is playing the role of Ali Akbar and Ali Asghar, and that's how they do their Azadari. Their Iraqis, you look at their matam, is of a different type. Julus, something that came out, is Every culture, as it has moved through time, has developed a form of azadari based on that culture. Everybody wants to attack the form of azadari. And by looking at the form of azadari, everybody has an opinion. No, azadari is wrong. But nobody is looking at the essence of it. The essence of it is what? The essence of azadari is so that you may transform yourself. This is a form of tabligh. When you take your hand and beat on your chest, this is, you are saying to Imam Hussein, Labbaik, I am with you. I am with you. This is the essence of azadari, my friends. If I am requesting this community for just one thing, and one thing only, this day of Ashura, this 10 days of Muharram, when you do azadari, when you kiss the alam and you kiss that lash, make the intention that I will give up only one of those acts that I have been performing that is un-Islamic. That will be azadari par excellence. Not asking you to reform overnight, because that is humanly not possible to just reform overnight. But I am asking you to take the journey of reformation, because that is the message of Imam Hussein. And if you look at the history of Karbala, if you look at what happened in Karbala, you will see that there is hope for all of us. It's never late, whether you are 80 years old or you are 80 years old. Reformation can happen at any time. You have to start the journey, my friend. Because the best example of reformation is the example of Hur. Allahu Akbar. You see, when you develop the right iman and taqwa al-qulub in your heart, piety entrenched in the heart, then a light bulb comes on in the heart, which is what happened to Hur. Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. Hur was a great warrior. Hur was the person who was responsible for bringing Imam Hussein to Karbala. That was Hur. I am telling you, whenever I look at the history of Karbala and the Shuhada of Karbala, the person that gives me the most inspiration is Hur. He gives me the most inspiration and hope. And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if I cannot be like Hur, make me at least like Hur's servant. That is my prayer to Allah. The most inspiration this person gives me. Because Hur was in the army of Sa'd. And there was no great warrior in the army of Sa'd other than Hur. And if you look at the history, many times Sa'd used to come to Hur, and he used to say to Hur, Hur, as long as you are in my army, I have no fear. You know, if you want to win somebody's heart, if you want to win a human being's heart, you tell him, if, as long as I have you in my team, I got no fear. Then you've won him. Right? This is what Umar Saad, not once, if you look at the history of Karbala, not once but many times Umar Saad would come to Hor and say, Hor, I have you in my army, I have no fear. On the night of Ashura, Hor is sitting on his tent. He's sitting inside his tent. And he starts to hear some voices that are coming out from the tent of Imam Hussein. Hor comes out of the tent, and as he listens to the voices, Hor starts to cry. And somebody asks Hor, what is it? Why are you crying? And Hor says, do you listen to the voices of the tents, of Imam Hussein's tent? And that man started to listen closely. And the voices from Imam's tent was, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. Oh, my thirst. Oh, my thirst. And Hor said to this particular person, that look at the river of Furat. Its waves are making such noise. But in the tents of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the children of Imam Hussein alayhi salam are thirsty. And he says, what will I do on the day of Qiyamah if I am asked by Janab Fatima Zahra alayhi salam that, Hor, did you not hear the cries of my children about thirst? What did you do? When the dawn came, the night of Ashura, when it was dawn, and the sun had just come out a little bit. It had just risen. The sun was not even fully out yet. The sun had just risen. A man from Ibn Sa'd's army, whose name was Murra ibn Qais. Murra ibn Qais was taking some horses to the water of Furat. And what happened was that Murra took these horses to the water of Furat, and he had a bucket with them. And he had a bucket with him, and he would take the water from the river of Furat, and he would pour the water on the feet and the hooves of the horse. And Hor came, and Hor said to Murra, Murra, what are you doing? And Murra ibn Qais said to Hor, Hor, don't ask. The sun has not even come out fully yet. It has just risen. But it is so hot here right now that these horses cannot keep their feet on the ground. So I am pouring water on the feet of the horses so that it may cool their feet, so that they may be able to keep their feet on the ground. And when Hur heard this, he said, Murra, you are keeping water on the feet of the horses so that the horses do not suffer from the heat of the ground. Over there in the camp of Imam Hussein, the children of Imam Hussein are tugging onto the veils of their mothers and saying, little bit of water is all we want. Azadaro, Hur, when he saw this, a reformation in his heart came. And he decided that he was going to go over to the side of Imam Hussein. Hur could not bear this anymore. And Azadaro, he went over to the camp of Imam Hussein. Before he reached that camp, Imam Hussein realized that Hur was coming over to his camp. And Imam alayhi salam said to Hazrat Abbas, Abbas, a guest of mine is coming. I want you to go and receive my guest. My guest is none other than Hur. Azadaro, Hazrat Abbas went forward, and when Abbas and Hur met at one point, Hur bowed his head and said, Abbas, will you take me to Aka Hussein? And Abbas alayhi salam said, Hur, it is Mawla who has sent me to receive you. When Hur heard this, he started to cry, and respectfully Abbas took Hur towards the camp of Imam Hussein. Hazadaro, when Hur reached near the camp of Imam Hussein, that time Hur said to Abbas, Abbas, I want you to stop here. Abbas stopped, and then Hur said, Abbas, I want you to take my hands, and I'm going to put my hands on my face. And Abbas, I want you to tie my hands on my face, for I cannot face Imam Hussein, for his coming to Karbala is the fault of Hur bin Yazid al-Rihai. Azadaro, Hazrat Abbas did what Hur was asked him to do. When Hur came to see Imam Hussein, immediately Hur fell onto the feet of Imam Hussein, and he said to Imam, Ya Imam, Hur is asking you for forgiveness. When Imam Hussein looked at Hur, he picked him up and he said to Hur, your mother has named you appropriately, for Hur means a free person. Hur, today I have forgiven you, and my Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven you. You are forgiven by both of us. Azadaro, when Imam alayhi salam said that, then there was a nara of takbir, and everybody started to say Allahu Akbar. हजारों जब नारा तकबीर की आवाज करबला में गूंजी है तो एक मर्तबा ज़ैनब के कानों में अल्लाहु अकबर की आवाज पहुंची। ज़ैनब ने कहा, फिजा क्या बात है, करबला के मैदान में अल्लाहु अकबर की आवाज, ये तकबीर की आवाज कहाँ से आ रही है? फिजा ने कहा शहजादी, हुर आया है यजीद की बात से, हुर यहाँ आया है, बस ये सुनना था। एक मर्तबा ज़ैनब ने कहा, फिजा हुर को जाके मेरा सलाम कह दो। फिजा आती है, कहती है, हुर शहजादी ने सलाम भेजा है, ये सुनना था। एक मर्तबा हुर जमीन पे बैठ गए, अपने हाथों से अपने सर को मारने लगे, कहते हैं, हाय फातिमा ज़हरा की शहजादी, मुझ जैसे गुलाम को सलाम कहती है। अज़ादारो, अब हुर इमाम हुसैन के पास आते हैं। हुर ने कहा, आका मैं चाहता हूँ कि जितनी जल्दी हो सके मुझे शहीद होना है। इमाम हुसैन ने हुर इब्न रिहाई को आज इजाजत दी। एक मर्तबा हुर पहुंचे मैदान करबला में। हुर जब करबला में आए हैं, हुर ने ऐसी जंग की है कि उम्र साद का पूरा लश्कर हिल गया। अज़ादारो, उम्र साद ने हुक्म दिया, अब सब मिलके हुर का मुकाबला करो। सब हुर इब्न रिहाई पे टूट पड़े। मुअर्रिख लिखते हैं, एक मर्तबा किसी ने हुर के सर पे वार किया। हुर घोड़े से नीचे आए, अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा अब्दिल्लाह। हुर ने आका को पुकारा, ये सुनना था। हुसैन हुर की लाश की तरफ दौड़े, हुर को लिया, कहा, हुर माफ करना, ये मजलूम इमाम तुम्हारी कोई मेहमान नवाजी न कर सका। ये मजलूम इमाम तुम्हारी कोई मेहमान नवाजी न कर सका। अज़ादारो, जब शाम गरीबा को हुर की ज़ौजा पानी लेके आई है, तो एक मर्तबा जनाब ज़ैनब ने जब हुर की ज़ौजा को देखा तो ज़ैनब लिपट गई। कहती है, बीबी हमारे यहाँ तेरा शौहर आया था, मैं माफ़ी चाहती हूँ, हम हमारे मेहमान की मेहमान नवाजी ना कर सके। वसयअलमुल्लज़ीना ज़लमू